on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his...
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Listener discretion is advised. The show contains graphic language and depictions of violence. It may not be suitable for all audiences.
We say fuck a lot.
Hey, motherfuckers. Welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
What? You look at me like I'm not allowed to call our listeners motherfuckers?
Oh, my God.
Look, if they're cool, they're motherfuckers, and they listen to us, okay?
And they know they're motherfuckers, and they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
They're part of the motherfucking club.
Okay.
Okay,
so Heather's cussing a lot because of our subject matter today.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
I just always talk like that.
That's not true.
Just how I speak. Unintelligently.
It's how she speaks to me.
Okay. Let's give a shout out to our brand new patrons who so generously donated over at patreon.com, signed up at our highest levels, Dylan. These people tapped out.
Oh, my God. These are the best people. We love them all. But when you go to the highest level, that's the ninja level.
So let's give it up for Elizabeth and LD. They are making today's show possible.
Thank you, Elizabeth and LD.
What's up?
Oh, my God. They're our today's show sponsor.
What's up?
Shit, what's up with you?
What's up with you? I feel like you're trying to be aggressive with me.
I'm not.
With your eyes. You're making aggressive eye gestures at me. I don't like it.
I had an aggressive day,
Yeah.
right? You know, life comes at you fast sometimes.
Who are you, Ferris Bueller?
No, it's true.
Okay.
For us regular folk.
Well, I had a weird situation pop up today.
You told me about this, and you filled me in on the deets, and this is amazing. So I'm pressing you to share it with our listeners.
Okay, so my best friend from middle school, like 7th, 8th, 9th grade, I still keep in touch with her. She sends me a news article via like Facebook Messenger earlier today.
Ooh.
And it is a news article about a man being charged for possessing child pornography.
Okay, without fully disclosing this man's details, can you tell us a little bit about him and your connection to him?
Well, this is what makes the story so strange. So my bestie from like 8th, 9th grade, we'll call her Kay. She was either friends with or maybe kind of talking to this older boy when we were freshmen in high school. So we would have been 14. And this guy was a senior. And I don't know if they were just friends or they were kind of talking, whatever. You know, back in the day, it was just, you know, you were going with somebody, but you just basically passed them a note in the hallway kind of thing.
Well, yeah, if you held their hand in the hallway, like you were going together that day.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Right.
So she is with this older boy, and she was like, hey, he has this friend. I think you'd really like him. He's cute. Well, at the time, I mean, I was like freshman, just starting high school, very sheltered and innocent. That kind of thing. He was an older boy, of course. He kind of hung out with the same sort of clique that we hung out with, which was kind of like the misfit skater kids.
Yeah, but he'd been held back a year.
Well,
so
he was
he's
a senior, but he was like 19. And I think he was either held back a year or his birthday fell late in the school year, so he wasn't starting school like the regular age. He was like a year older than everybody.
like maybe his birthday's after September.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's like, hey, you should meet this guy. He's really cute. He's single, whatever. Well, at the time I was like, oh, he is kind of cute. He was older. He had long hair, which back in the 90s, it's like all it would take for me to think somebody was cute is they had long hair, right? And he was like a skater kid, hung out with that group. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, you know, I met him and talked to him a couple of times at school, and he was nice enough, and we exchanged phone numbers and that kind of thing. But I always thought it was strange that he was 19 and trying to date me, and I was 14. So that was already a red flag, because I was definitely a very aware kid. Like, I always felt like I was much older, mentally much older than most of my peers, right? So right off the bat, I was like, this is weird that this guy is so much older than me.
No, I must say, me as a 19-year-old male, I would never try to date a 14-year-old girl.
Right?
That's a little too young.
It's weird.
Maybe 16 and above. Like 16 would be pushing it
Well,
for
I
me.
feel very fortunate. I mean, in a lot of ways, my mother was like so super strict that it was ridiculous. But at the same time, I also am grateful that she was.
She likely
When things like
protected
this
you.
pop up. Okay,
Right.
so this guy, we'll just go, his name is Eddie. So, he's like pursuing me, whatever. He's so much older. My mom was super protective. She would not let me go out on dates. I wasn't allowed to car date basically till I was like 25. No, I'm not even kidding. She was like so strict. And of course she was like, no, no way. This guy's too old, whatever. So, a couple weeks go on and I kind of wore her down that she was like, well, he can come over and hang out, have dinner with us, but it's like supervised, right? So like every waking second that he's in our home, he is like supervised. My mom's there. So this happened maybe 2 or 3 times that we kind of hung out a little bit. Well, I pretty quickly grew tired of him. He just wasn't for me, right? And I was weirded out. And not that he was overly affectionate, but there was just something about him that gave me this really bad vibe. So I pretty quickly broke up with him. He drops out of school soon after. I don't hear from him for years and years, right? Don't think about him. And then, of course, when Facebook rolls around, he finds me on there. We kind of friend each other. Well, I noticed that he seems to be, for lack of better words, kind of a loser. Like he was always seemingly in between jobs. And I mean, at this point, when Facebook rolls around, I mean, we're adults. We're well into our adult lives. You would think, okay, by now he should have his shit together, right? But he never seemed to have his shit together. Always drinking, doing drugs. This friend from middle school would randomly just message me and be like, what the fuck is wrong with him? Like, did you see all that crazy shit he was posting on Facebook? And I'd be like, no, I think he just drinks a lot, whatever. Well, a few years ago, he got busted for sending a dick pic to an underage girl. He spent time in jail.
Red flag.
We were all like, what the fuck, right? Here he's back in the news, busted with multiple child pornography possession charges.
Okay, so I'm going to explain everything you just said. Even when you were a young female,
Yes.
14 years old, you like the hairs on the back of your neck kind of thing,
Yeah.
like in your gut, like you couldn't even explain it, but you got this feeling from this guy eventually after a minute, right?
Yeah. I mean, after a couple of weeks of, chatting on the phone and seeing
Right.
each other on the hallway at school, and then he may have come to my house 2 or 3 times, maybe,
So he was a creep.
to like hang out with me and my mom and stepdad.
He was a creep, and you knew that then.
Yeah.
You felt it, and you kind of drifted away. You pushed yourself away at that point in accordance to self-preservation. And this guy is a total cocksucker.
What was that?
I knocked my phone off. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're always making racket over
No,
there.
I apologize. That's not true.
Well,
That's
he was
disparaging.
indicted earlier in July on 10 counts of third-degree exploitation of a minor for possessing what court documents call minors engaging in sexual activity, including prepubescent females. He is currently being held for those charges on a $100,000 bond.
Okay, so for the uninitiated, that's fucking kids, guys. Prepubescent is kids. Full blown, you can't play the I thought she was or he was older card or yada yada. They manipulated me. These are children, right?
I'm so grossed out, and I almost didn't even want to tell our listeners this story because I was like, ew, I don't want them to know I'm associated with this person. But I was also 14. I mean, that was like, 27 years ago? I mean, that was a really fucking long time ago. But it just goes to show me that even then, he had tendencies to be a fucking predator.
No, I'm gonna say
so fortunate that my mother was the crazy person that she is, because I could have found myself in some real trouble had she been a more permissive parent.
I'm gonna say you dodged a bullet, and I'm glad you shared it just because this is an important kind of thing to talk about.
Well, it's true. And I know we have a lot of moms out there and dads who have teenage daughters or young, children getting ready to hit those teen years. And if there's ever a time when you're feeling like this person's not right for your child to take them on a date, they're a teenager, they're trying to date, you think that person's a little bit too old, or there's something about that kid, feel free to be that parent that's like, hell no, you're not going.
Err on the side of caution.
So many parents, I feel like, give in to their kids because they don't want a fight and they would rather be like the friend or like, oh, well, if I tell them no, they're just going to sneak and do this stuff, which that may be the case. But you're going to have a hard time fucking sneaking out and doing that shit behind my back because I'm going to be up on you. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, sometimes you need to make these calls as a parent, even if it's going to catch you flack or cause issues with you and your child. You just need to be that buffer between them and dangerous situations. That's part of being a parent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought I would share the story just to let you know that sometimes those gut feelings really do mean something. And don't be afraid as a parent to say no, because you never know that person that's trying to take your child out on a date, even if they're just a couple years older, and that could be the beginnings of like this person's a creep.
It's true.
I don't know. I just thought this story was really crazy. It kind of blew my mind, and it's made me feel really kind of gross.
I strongly believe through our experiences together and before I even met you, that people develop this creep vibe very early on, right? They're that weird kid who said shit that other kids are like, oh my God, what did they just say? You know, it's weird. I would never say that. And I think they grow up into adults. I really do think this, maybe they're just wired that way. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a product of environment or if it's just pure chemical imbalance of some type. But creepy kids grow up into creepy adults.
We don't like creepy pedophiles, and we think that we should normalize like just
Killing
giving
them.
them
Oh, sorry.
life sentences and executions because we don't like them here.
No,
So
the
there's
first
that.
time you harm a child, and I would say or a woman, but a child first, maybe I can make a scale here, you go away for way longer than if you had two consenting adults do drugs together.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Right. I think that's the way we should have our society evolve and be set up.
All
Because
right.
children are way more important.
Well, I just wanted to share that story. I thought it was a quick story, but it's lended to several minutes. So we're going to get into our actual true crime case for this week. Are you ready, Dylan?
I am ready, and you described this case to me, and it is an insane story, and I've never heard it before.
You're unfamiliar with this. Some of our listeners may know the story. I'm not going to say it's a super popular case, but it has been covered by a few other podcasts, but not like Mountain Murders will cover it.
Oh, you ain't heard it until it's out of my mouth.
So people on social media often adopt a false persona to be loved and accepted by an online audience. We see this all the time.
It's true. And I think there's some kind of, it's almost freeing the anonymity and all that of the web. It gives you all these other options maybe you didn't have before. But a lot of times it can turn dark very quickly.
We end up creating these avatars, if you will, who represent us in the online world, on some level subconsciously or maybe consciously, to shape others' ideas about who we are. Some people take it a step further to manipulate others' perceptions and give themselves an advantage of sort, to deceive, to become puppet masters, if you will.
Have you ever been catfished?
No.
You haven't?
No, not like online.
I've never dated strictly like online early on or any of that when a lot of this happened more frequently. But I did the dating app thing later on in life.
Before we met?
But before we met, that's how we met, actually.
Don't tell people how we met.
We met on Tinder.
No.
I'm not ashamed of it.
We met at the mortuary.
It's not true.
Okay.
You swiped right on me, right? Because I'm incredible.
Because you were the only cute boy on there.
Well, it's Haywood County,
Yeah,
so the bar's pretty low.
that's true.
Yeah, but no,
Slim pickings around here.
but early on, I think, very early on, that people found this new realm almost, this new reality that they could lose themselves in. And I think it was very intoxicating. And we didn't really understand the ramifications or the dangers of doing that.
Well, now I hear stories from both men and women, friends, who say they get catfished, but it's because of the heavily filtered photos that people now use on social media.
Well, I think photo filters on dating apps and such should be illegal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I could look totally super incredible.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people say that kind of thing. Syko Sam was a character created by a lonely misfit in order to fit in. Richard Samuel Alden McCroskey was born on December 23rd of 1988, growing up in Hayward, California, before moving to Castro Valley with his father and older sister Sarah. Sam's father was a rock guitarist, and I will kind of fluctuate back and forth between calling him Sam and calling him Richard, just to let you know.
Oh, really? So Richard's his middle name.
Richard is his first name.
First name.
Now, Syko Sam was this online persona.
Okay.
And some people, I think, called him Sam, but I've also heard him called Richard, so I might fluctuate between using those two names.
Let's just call him Dick.
Well, are you done interrupting me? Because I'm trying to tell a story.
Well, I'm saying when you say
Okay.
Richard, I always think Dick.
Okay, so just, can you shut up for a second? Thank you. Sam's father was a rock guitarist who introduced his son to musical acts like Insane Clown Posse, Metallica, and Primus. Sam was known as a meek and mild, yet insecure kid. In school, Sam was teased mercilessly by classmates for being overweight and because he had bright red hair. Now, I know kids will find any reason to bully. It doesn't matter what you look like, but I never understood why kids wanted to bully redheads or the gingers.
Well, it's a fat ginger. They're going to catch hell. I don't agree with it. I would never partake in that myself. But for some reason, people key. It's just about being different, right? I think that's what it is.
Well, his sister Sarah would later say that Sam was the kind of guy who was incredibly mild-mannered. He never fought back or defended himself unless provoked. And even in those cases, he didn't really stand up for himself. In real life, Sam was an outcast at school, a social pariah. But online, particularly on the social media site MySpace, Sam portrayed himself as tough, confident, and an aspiring horrorcore rapper.
Yeah, and I think that's the appeal of especially the early on internet. You create a whole different persona.
It was on the internet that Sam could escape from reality. No longer did he have to be the subject of bullying. He could be anyone he wanted to be. And by the way, if you don't know about horrorcore, it's a subgenre of hip-hop music based on horror-themed lyrics. Its origins can be traced to groups like the Ghetto Boys, who used occult, supernatural, and psychological horror in their lyrics. These artists often push violent content beyond the realistic urban violence into almost slasher-like imagery. Jimmy Spicer's 1980 single Adventures of Super Rhyme is arguably the first example of anything close to horrorcore as it is known today. Now, in the song, Spicer recounts his time meeting Dracula. And it wasn't until 1991 that the artist Keith Cool used the term horrorcore and kind of coined that term. Now, Sam McCroskey took to calling himself Syko Sam, and that's S-Y-K-O, Syko Sam. And he liked to incorporate these dark themes like murder, suicide, mental illness, and the macabre into his own rap lyrics. He was also part of Razakel's promotional team. That is an established rapper in the industry. Sam began helping Razakel with her marketing and web design. He often did graphic arts types of work for this rapper and for different record labels. Sam had attended Tennyson High School, then Hayward High School before dropping out. So when our story takes place in 2009, Sam had recently been devastated that his parents had split up. His sister Sarah would describe their family dynamic as not particularly close, not a Leave It to Beaver style family, but Sam took it very hard when their father asked his mother to move out. In 2008, Sam was living with his dad and working part-time as a graphic designer. He began uploading his music under the name Syko Sam on MySpace. He grew a small fan base, making friends with other horrorcore fans and rappers. It was online that 19-year-old Sam met then 15-year-old Emma Niederbrock on the internet, and it was through this horrorcore community. When Sam and Emma first met online, they immediately bonded over their love of horrorcore music.
Yeah, it sounds like Syko Sam has a lot going on in his personal life.
You think so?
Wouldn't you think so? So he gets picked on constantly for years, I'm sure, during school. And then he has the divorce, which is very upsetting to an entire family or household. And it sounds like it hit him harder than his other siblings. And I just think that he maybe turns to this other hobby of his to kind of forget all that.
Well, and again, it reminds me of the similar situation we were discussing earlier. He's 19 and she's 15.
No,
And
it's exactly.
sure, it's an online friendship, but even that age difference is, kind of a thing.
Well, unless you take that position of kind of a mentor position or like a leader of sorts to give someone good advice that's that much younger than you. But if it's anything other than that, I think it's kind of weird.
Well,
Seriously.
Emma Niederbrock was born October 15th, 1992 to parents Mark and Deborah Kelly in Champaign, Illinois. At some point, the family moved from Illinois to Farmville, Virginia. Mark, Emma's father, served as pastor at Walker's Presbyterian Church in Hicksburg, Virginia. Her mother, Deborah, was a sociology and criminology professor at Longwood University in Farmville. Emma was homeschooled since middle school, and she also had some differing interests. I mean, Emma was known as a rebellious girl who dyed her hair pink, purple, blue. She wore black lipstick and fishnets, but also liked the Backstreet Boys and playing soccer. So at the beginning of 2009, Emma's parents divorced. Emma stayed with her mother, Deborah, at the family's Dutch colonial-style home in Farmville, while Mark moved out. Deborah initially was concerned over this phase her daughter was in. So concerned, in fact, that she sought out counseling with her daughter. Deborah Kelly had taught classes specializing in violence against women, so she couldn't understand her daughter's obsession with horrorcore music.
Well, yeah, I think the whole thing of that genre, when I was younger, I did listen to ICP, Insane Clown Posse, and I've always been kind of, a little different.
I've been looking for a reason to divorce you, and there we go.
Well, that's not it. I also
I
listened
married
to
a juggalo.
Kid Rock, Devil Without a Cause CD.
Okay, I've got to move out.
No, but it's back then this was good because I've always been on the fringes of everything.
You've always been a little trashy.
Yeah, just a little taste. Recycled trash. But I've always been on the fringes and like gotten into things that
You're trying to tell me that Kid Rock was the fringe?
Yeah, look, no.
Okay.
I just gotta say, you're judging now 2021 Kid Rock with Kid Rock when he first hit the scene.
I'm judging Kid Rock when he first hit the scene.
No, you're not. Because
Are you
when
sure?
Yes, I am. Because I feel like you were cooler than that. And you would have recognized, maybe, if you weren't being sheltered or some shit, or just not allowed to do this, that when Kid Rock Devil Without a Cause CD hit, it was at a perfect time for that type of
So
music.
you're trying to tell me that like in 1999 or 2000 I was sheltered? No, Dylan. I just had better taste in music than Kid Rock.
I liked it.
And I'm judging you.
You can.
And that is how this marriage works.
And I'm going to judge you for judging me.
Okay, Juggalo.
But we'll work on that later.
Okay.
Well, if I thought Juggalo, I'd take a rusty axe to your head right now.
You're down with the clown.
And I would kill you.
Yeah, you know what I would do?
And I would make a song
I would
about
take
it.
off my big clown shoe and I would beat you in your red nose with it. And then I would throw a cream pie at your face and be like, honk, honk. What do you think about that?
I stab people. That's all I got to say to that, which was a great song by Violent J.
I cream pie people in the face.
Oh. Like I was saying, this was a kind of a very niche market, but it was quite different and very weird. And the modern day equivalent to that would be like Tech Nine or something like that, or maybe a little bit of Hobson. They mixed like what I liked about it is they brought the horror genre, like movies, slasher flicks, all that weird stuff, into rap, which I was into. And I think that was the kind of I don't know how to describe it, but the kind of the thing that appealed to people.
No, I get it.
You have to be a
I'm
fan
a huge
of
horror fan, and I like hip hop. I've never thought of combining the two or being
Right.
a fan of these things.
No, and some of the
but
lyrics.
I'm sure it's very entertaining.
No, it is. And some of the lyrics are very entertaining, turn of phrases and such, because you're combining kind of these two things you like, horror, rap, and also what's entertaining about it is the shock value that people who don't listen to it get when they hear you listening to it. It makes you feel cool, right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Makes you feel like kind of special.
Sure. That's how I feel when I'm driving my car listening to Hall & Oates
Me too.
or Eric Carmen.
I agree with that.
Okay. Well, Mark and Deborah wanted to be part of their daughter's life and the things she was interested in. So, to be involved, they willingly took her to shows, and a lot of this was just so they could kind of keep an eye on her. Which I think, good on them. That's pretty cool.
No, I must say, from what you described when you laid this case out for me, these parents tried as hard as they could, at first being like turned off or like not understanding what their daughter was into. They really go the extra length to kind of connect with her, no matter what.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Especially considering like her dad's a pastor, her mom's a professor studying criminology, criminal justice,
Particularly
sociology. So,
violence against women.
yeah, so they really were like going out on a limb here and really trying to be active in their daughter's interests. On MySpace, where Emma spent a lot of her time, she was known as Ragdoll. So I guess people in this horrorcore community have fun nicknames.
Well, if you're in any kind of a good community, cool community, you're going to have a nickname. My nickname was Dylan Smallfeet.
That's your horrorcore community nickname?
No, I've been Big D for years.
Okay.
Big D.
Sure you have.
Big D.
That sounds like a self-given nickname.
It's not.
Yeah. She used...
No, I'm saying everybody called me that.
Mm-hmm. She used the website... See, you've got me all fucked up here.
Yeah, thinking about it.
She used the website MySpace to network with other horrorcore fans, make new friends, and listen to new music. That's where she also found out about upcoming horrorcore concerts and music festivals. So when Emma and Sam met online, they began chatting regularly, which morphed into both online conversations as well as daily phone calls. And though Sam was much older than Emma, at least 4 years, he was pretty immature and looked young for his age. As a matter of fact, 16-year-old Emma looked much older than Sam. By September of 2009, 16-year-old Emma and 20-year-old Sam had been connected for almost a year. For a lonely guy like Sam, these conversations with the beautiful Emma meant the world to him. But he also had this idea that she was his girlfriend.
So basically, he thinks that this is like a long-distance relationship with someone I've connected to.
And though the two did exchange affectionate messages, it is hard to decipher exactly how serious Emma took this relationship with Sam. Until this point, they had never met in person, and they knew each other exclusively on the internet. However, Sam was head over heels in love with Emma. Now, Emma wanted to attend an all-day horrorcore festival in Southgate, Michigan, called Strictly for the Wicked. Emma's parents, though not super excited about their daughter's choice in music, they didn't discourage her. Rather, they tried to nurture her interest, and like I said, they allowed her to attend these concerts and to wear the horrorcore types of fashions. So when she presented her mother with this idea, let's go to this festival, Deborah agreed that Emma could go as long as Deborah drove her up and could supervise the trip.
So she's like, okay, we can do this thing. I don't get it, but I want you to be happy, right? That's the driving force of any parent that tries this hard. But I'm going to be closely connected to what you do. And I think it's very interesting. For number one, Sam would have to be a little bit quiet, or actually quite immature, to connect when you're 19 and someone's 13 or 14 with that person. I mean, you've talked about this time and again, when someone that much younger than them when they make that connection, they have to be like underdeveloped or immature in their own mindset to even make that work. Because I can never in my life at 19 or 20 years old approach a 13 or 14-year-old and feel like we had any kind of a connection. Right? Because it'd be weird because I would be like, I'm 19. That's a kid.
Well, I mean, it's a big age gap because there's so much going on when you're 19 versus when you're 14. Like, it's a world of difference.
Well, yeah, I'd already been...
And
of
life
course,
experience and responsibilities and all that.
I think me and you were both accelerated a little bit at that point compared to maybe most. Maybe having been made to be a bit more adult in our thought process and stuff.
I was like born,
I've always
a
been that
harried
way.
adult with like a smoke and like, I was born 40 and divorced.
I've always been that way. And then life came, it wasn't all bad or anything like that, but life happened. And ever since I can remember in my teenage years, I've always hung out with people who were anywhere from 4 to 8 years older than me.
Yeah, same.
And I just never connected or understood where other teenagers were coming from. But my path was different than theirs.
Right.
That doesn't make them bad.
Well, Mark and Deborah, they were just hoping, this was a phase. She's going to grow out of it. But in the meantime, let's take her to this show. We'll both go. Even though they were divorced, they were still on amicable terms, spent time together as a family. And they really wanted a smooth transition for Emma with this divorce. So they were really trying to like get along and still be a family. Emma invited her 18-year-old friend, Melanie Wells, to go along. Now, Melanie was from West Virginia, but the pair had met through the horrorcore community online. They grew very close. Melanie had been to several of the festivals before, and she always had a great time, and she knew Emma would love it. Now, Melanie had recently dropped out of high school. She lived at home with her parents, but people said she was like almost annoyingly optimistic. Like, she was just a really positive person, really fun to be around, great attitude, like just sort of an infectious kind of bubbly personality. Her laugh like made everybody kind of laugh, and so she sounds like she would be a blast to go to the show with.
Well, I think definitely. I think we've all known someone like that in the past that almost could change the entire mood of a room or, a group of people when they come in with their over the top, laughing and making jokes and stuff like that. And I love people like that, honestly.
With her parents' recent divorce, Mark and Deborah wanted their daughter to be happy, so Deborah decided, okay, we'll drive you to this festival. We're going to hang out in the city all day while you attend the festival, and then we'll pick you up and we'll make the drive back home. Now, Emma thought the festival might be a perfect opportunity to catch up with Syko Sam. After all, they discussed the show and how much they both wanted to go. Now, Emma's parents were understandably nervous about this meeting. Sam was 20 years old while Emma was only 16, and the pair had only ever spoken on the phone. Deborah went out of her way to make things work for Emma. She agreed reluctantly to allow her daughter to meet up with Sam in Virginia. Then she would transport the three to the festival. On September 6th of 2009, Sam left California for Virginia. He arrived in Farmville, Virginia the following day, which is the same day that Melanie Wells arrived at Emma's house. Deborah agreed that Sam could stay at the family home, despite the fact that he was a total stranger. So, Dylan, let me ask you, how would you feel about allowing a total stranger, your child's internet friend, to visit and stay in your home, a person that was a complete stranger to you?
Well, like I said earlier, my hat goes off to these parents. They're trying very hard to not push their child
I just
away
don't know if I could be this
and
open-minded.
stay connected. But I must say, I believe they're going a bit further than I would be comfortable with personally. Having, had kids, early teens, middle teens, all that. But that's just a mistake on their part, or they're simply doing what they think is best for their child in the long run, which is a noble cause. But no, they're going a little bit further than I think I would. But at the same time, I've never lived what they're going through. You have the assurances from your child that they know this person, They've been communicating with them for over, a little over a year or so, and which is a long time. And so I don't know. I can't really call it until I was in that particular situation.
Well, they say you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
No, and another thing is this community is just a very small niche community.
So you never get a second chance to make a first impression, as I was saying, and Richard McCroskey wasn't scoring any points. When Emma first set her eyes on Sam, she was not impressed. Now, in his MySpace photos, he had evidently done a bit of altering. Emma felt that she had gotten catfished. The photos were not an authentic representation of Richard or his online character, Syko Sam. In reality, he looked much different. Richard showed up wearing an oversized black hoodie with baggy jeans. His red hair was kind of greasy, and he wore it combed straight down on his forehead, almost like that Caesar haircut. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, my God.
Like I immediately think of Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber, where it looks like he's kind of got that weird bowl cut across the front of his head, and it's like he's got it slicked down almost on his forehead, those straight across bangs. You know what I mean?
He's basically got some like some weird bangs.
Yeah, like
All right.
This isn't a cool hairstyle. And needless to say, Emma did not find him attractive. Not to mention that he was much younger appearing than 20. Like, he looked very boyish. And he was very short. And on top of it, Richard's personality was quite immature. He acted like a teenage boy, like a very young teenage boy, as opposed to a 20-year-old man. It was definitely a cold reception. How absolutely uncomfortable and awkward is this? Being with a girl and her family for hours, and it's a girl that's just not into you.
Oh, no, it sounds terrifying to me. But you got to have some ace in the hole if you're going to try to pull this off on Sam's part, like not exactly represent yourself completely accurately or any of that. But you got to have a great personality or a really good sense of humor or make people feel comfortable around. You got to have something. But to be annoying on top of not exactly who you said you were and just be kind of weird, I mean, I think he comes across as awkward and weird. That's not going to be a good recipe.
Emma was polite to Sam, but it became crystal clear that any attraction she may have had online quickly dwindled in person. If anything, Melanie and Emma found Sam to be quite irritating. Now, the festival was nearly a 10-hour drive, 639 miles away from Farmville, Virginia.
These parents are going all out.
The festival doors opened around 1 p.m. on September the 12th, which was a Saturday. So Emma, her parents, Sam and Melanie made the drive to Michigan without any significant problems. Syko Sam hoped once they reached the festival, things might change. He was picking up on Emma's attitude toward him, but he thought maybe once they were there, immersed in the music, the scene, feeling it, vibing, she would come around again. Emma might see him in a different light. You know, he's in his element, that kind of thing. However, all of Sam's hopes were crushed when they arrived at the festival. So once they're there, Emma pays him little attention. She's barely talking to him. She doesn't really want to hang out with him. Emma is flirting with other guys at the show, in front of Sam, and via text message. So Sam observed all of this with surprise, then disappointment. Sam's already, fragile ego that he has quickly deflates.
Can we I'm just now realizing how awkward this situation is. So he's flown in, it sounds like. They pick him up at the airport, and then they turn straight around. So there's a cool reception instantly because they're meeting for the first time, which is kind of weird. Even if it goes good, it's weird. And then you take a 10-hour car ride is a big deal, right?
It's a long-ass car ride.
You learn a lot about the people you travel with in a 10-hour car ride. So you have this cool reception, and then almost like the next morning or middle of the morning, sounds like if they make it by 1 o'clock, we get into this 10-hour awkward fucking car ride. And yeah, so this is a really crazy situation.
So one thing that I've learned about you after these years of marriage and multiple car rides is that you're a person who's willing to eat anything at a gas station.
It's true.
Like, you'll go in, I think you're using the bathroom or something, you come out and you've got like snacks.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, oh, yeah, they were making Greek lamb kebabs in there. And you come out with like a weird kebab that's got like gray meat on it. And you're just like eating the shit out of it.
They had tornadoes.
Yeah.
Right, which is basically some kind of a corn dog concoction.
Yeah,
that's in
but
a
you'll
roll.
eat pretty much anything that's in a gas station.
Well, I think gas stations fuel America. I'm going to say that up front. But you really are rolling the dice when you eat, when you partake in that gas station
Because you
food.
love like a good gourmet gas station hot dog.
Hey,
Has to be cooked on, what is the little thing?
the wiener rotisserie.
The wiener rotisserie.
Yes, and they need to have all the relish and condiments and the onions and jalapenos and cheese and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I must
Weird
say,
chili that also doubles for nachos, but your hot dog as well.
you have enjoyed a couple of those gas station hot dogs I've gotten you, and I must say, locally, the Hot Spot has the best hot dog around.
Oh, I'll admit, when I'm drunk or high as hell, I don't care. I'll eat the fuck out of a gas station hot dog. But you just eat some random shit that I find questionable.
Well, you just got to get by.
I'm just saying that's the one thing I've learned about you taking road trips, right? So now our audience knows that as well. If you take Dylan on a road trip, he's probably going to eat something weird. And then he'll have to pull over about an hour later.
I need you to hit the next rest area.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, Dylan, and we will be right back. And we are back, Dylan. Did you have a good break?
I had a really quality break,
Great.
I must say.
Well, the following day, the five drive back to Virginia. Melanie made posts to her MySpace page bragging about what an amazing time she'd had at the festival. Melanie uploaded plenty of photos, telling everyone back home in West Virginia that she would see them soon and she missed everybody. Then her account fell silent. After the post on MySpace, Melanie's family and friends stopped hearing from her. This was highly unusual as Melanie kept in touch regularly with her mother, no matter where she went. When Monday, then Tuesday came and went, her mother Kathleen was worried. Kathleen and Thomas Wells made repeated attempts to get in touch with Melanie. She was due back home on Wednesday, September the 16th. With a sinking feeling that something was not right, Thomas Wells jumped in his car, driving 200 miles to Farmville to check on his daughter.
Well, I don't blame him because you know the character of your child or family member, and when they go outside of that normal parameter, you get worried.
He arrived at the Farmville house to find it empty. No one answered the door when he knocked. Thomas then sat outside in his car, waiting. After about 7 hours with no sign of Melanie, Emma, or Deborah, Thomas wasn't sure what was going on. He felt no one was coming home anytime soon, so he drove away. He couldn't shake the feeling that something bad had happened. He was very worried. When Thomas finally arrived back to his home in West Virginia, without Melanie, his wife Kathleen was frantic. She phoned as many people as she could think of who might know where Melanie was. She called Emma's phone number over and over again with no answer. I can't imagine. I'd be freaking out.
Yeah, I would totally lose it.
Andre Schrem owns a small independent record label in Albuquerque, New Mexico called Serial Killin' Records, SKR.
Ooh.
That's a great name for a record company, huh? Well, SKR was responsible for organizing the Strictly for the Wicked Music Festival, and they also produced many of the bands and artists liked by Richard, Emma, and Melanie. Now, after Kathleen reached out to everybody she could think of, she goes in Melanie's room and starts digging around, like just looking for anything that might help. That is when Kathleen stumbled across Andre's phone number in New Mexico. Andre answered Kathleen's call, and he explained that he had seen Sam, Emma, and Melanie at the festival in Michigan. He knew they had left with Emma's parents after the festival, but beyond that, he explained he didn't know anything about their whereabouts. He was like, if I hear anything, I'm going to pass the news back to you.
Yeah, and I think that shows you the level of desperation by these parents. They go literally digging through her room and trying to find any contact, anybody she's known. And again, this is such a small community, which you pointed out to me earlier, that it's not a surprise that you have a fan of this genre knowing a record producer, because we use that term maybe a bit liberally, because this is probably a really small label,
Well, it's
right?
an indie, very small,
Very-
independent label. Yeah.
Very indie, very independent and small, and he has connect. So everybody in this genre or clique
Scene.
knows each other, down to the fan through the artist.
Yeah.
Right.
So after speaking with Andre on the phone, Kathleen tried once more calling Emma's cell phone. Now this time, Sam answered the phone. When Kathleen inquired about her daughter Melanie, Sam didn't give her a straight answer. So after a few minutes of nonsensical conversation, which was leading nowhere, Kathleen grew very frustrated. She felt Sam was lying. Ending the conversation, it just didn't sit right with her. Now, with this sneaking feeling that something was terribly wrong, Kathleen decided to phone the Farmville police on the morning of Thursday, September the 17th. Kathleen gave law enforcement an overview of the situation, then requested that they perform a welfare check at the house. Now, we study a lot of true crime here on Mountain Murders, Dylan. A lot of times these welfare checks are kind of a joke.
Well, it's true. And I've personally tried to do this for people I've known, and it doesn't seem to get very far. But I guess we have to remember that cops have to work inside of the system and what they're allowed to legally do. And they may want to go knock a door down and see what's going on, but they can't. If they show up to a property and everything's kind of quiet and dark, but there's no obvious signs of any kind of a crime or a potential hazard to anyone, they really can't do much. But even I've experienced, even when they make contact with the people in the household, they don't take it seriously. They don't take it seriously. I think that's the problem, because I think that happens a lot. People get welfare checks, and some people abuse that very thing just to fuck with someone else. And that's what happens around here a lot.
Well, Farmville police arrive at the house of Deborah and Emma only to be greeted by this young man named Richard McCroskey. When law enforcement inquire about the whereabouts of the three women, Sam casually explains that the women have gone to a movie. Now, I'm not sure how Sam introduced himself to police. Did he say, "I'm a house guest, I'm Emma's boyfriend"? We're not sure. But they took his word without any further investigation. And see, I guess that's where I would be different as a law enforcement officer. If I was asked to perform a welfare check, I go to the house, the people I'm trying to find aren't there, a stranger's telling me this is where they've gone, I would have to go back. I would want to speak directly with that person to confirm that everything's okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't take a stranger's word.
That doesn't seem like a properly carried out welfare check to me.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm sure they have certain things they have to adhere to when they do these, but it just, I don't know. There's something about it that if I were an officer, I'd have to see it through to the end and know that I'm specifically speaking with the person whose name was given to me. This is the person who needs a welfare check. You know what I mean?
You'd be a really good officer, I think, because you would stick to the rules and regulations and law.
Well, they didn't question him or ask to come inside, anything like that. So at this point, law enforcement doesn't know they have a crime on their hands. Melanie was 18, so legally an adult, and the police didn't seem too concerned about a young woman who failed to show up at home after attending a music festival with friends. Likely the police didn't know that Sam wasn't a resident of the home. When the welfare check turned up little information, Kathleen decided to give Mark Niederbrock a call. Now, Mark, you remember he and Deborah had divorced. He was living about 20 miles away in a town called Pamplin, Virginia. She told him that Melanie had yet to show up in West Virginia. She was having a hard time locating her daughter, and she was very worried. This was around 5 p.m. Now, Mark tells her, "Don't worry, I'm going to drive over to my former home, and I'll check things out. I still have a key. It should be fine," right? So when I get there, I'm going to have Melanie give you a call, get in touch with you. I'll let you know what's going on. But Kathleen would never hear from Mark again after that phone call. So I can't imagine how Kathleen must have been feeling.
Well, I mean, at once, when you know there's someone close who can go check right quick, 10 to 20 minutes, that's going to give you a, kind of a relief. Okay, we'll figure this out. Because I think it's human nature to keep telling yourself, oh, this is just a misunderstanding. Oh, you missed something. It's going to be okay until you actually know different. And but then to not hear back from the person you sent to check on something, now that would send me into orbit.
The next morning, when Mark Niederbrock failed to return a phone call updating her on what he had learned from his visit to Farmville, Kathleen called police again. She was at her wit's end. I mean, I can't imagine as a mother being a state away while your daughter is unaccounted for. She urged them to please go back to Deborah's house. So day after day, she's got no updates on her child. She had gone 5 days without speaking to Melanie. When police arrive at the home for the second time, they discover a terrible odor radiating from the home's perimeter. So can you imagine, Dylan, approaching a house and immediately you're hit with an awful stench?
No, I can't. Because I'm always expecting an awful stench from like some abandoned or kind of weird house, right? And when it's not there, I'm relieved, but I almost, in my true crime mind, expect to smell it.
You just always assume there's a dead body rotting in a house.
Quite possibly.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
You never know.
The door is unlocked. Sam, who had answered the door only the day before, was nowhere to be found. The pungent smell of death was enough to give police probable cause to enter the house. Once inside Deborah Kelly's home, police make a gruesome discovery. In the downstairs, what appeared to be Emma's bedroom, police find 3 bodies. Upon finding the 3 bodies, police get a search warrant. With the warrant in hand, law enforcement is able to conduct a full search of the home. That is when they discover another body in an upstairs bedroom. The 4 victims would not be identified until Monday, September 21st. Mark Niederbrock, his wife Deborah Kelly, their daughter Emma, and Emma's best friend Melanie had all been killed by blunt force trauma. The scene was so nightmarish that few details were released about the crime scene's condition. After an exploration of the house and crime scene, including examining the girls' social media accounts, officers were able to piece together the days leading up to the murders. So the girls had attended a music festival with this guy named Richard McCroskey, a guy who had been at the house just a day before and was now gone. So the officer who had conducted the welfare check was shown photos of Richard McCroskey, and he confirmed that was the young man who had been at the house. During his stay at Emma's home, Richard, or Sam, was drinking and smoking pot. His jealousy, rage, and feelings of rejection began boiling over at some point. Now, it is said from some of Sam's friends back home that he had discovered Emma texting with another guy, and that this kind of sent him over the edge, or that he was really upset about it. It was some guy she had met at the festival. So they had maybe an exchange about this. So he's just like sitting there drinking, smoking, and just keeps getting like more and more pissed off as time goes on.
Yeah.
He's just really, steaming in it, if you will.
Well, these feelings have been building since the very moment he met Emma in the airport, right? There was instantly like, oh, you know it. We're humans. You pick up on it. If someone sees you and they're not impressed, or you're not what they thought you were, especially if you've been portraying yourself as someone who you were not, right? I mean, you could be putting yourself out there and someone's perception be off just a bit. That would be quite a bit easier to deal with. But if you've been lying to this person, wondering what they're really going to think about you, and then as soon as you see them, you can tell that it's not cool, right? It's not good. So all the time, all the way through the ride, the long 10-hour car ride, the festival, him seeing her openly kind of flirt. She's just young, too, which I don't think he's mature enough to realize. that she's just young. This is not a life partner. This is not your girlfriend, right? That's a
Right.
problem too. And so, yeah, these feelings have been building this entire time. So if it's come all the way full circle in his mind to she's met this guy after I've known her for over a year. I came here to hang out with her. So, yeah, I could see Sam being very immature in his mind.
Just marinating in
Yes.
these feelings until it just erupts, right?
Exactly.
It's just making for an explosive situation. And maybe if Sam were like a different kind of guy, it wouldn't be a huge deal, but we're going to learn that it's a very big deal. So it was around 3 a.m. on Tuesday, September the 15th, that the women were asleep. That is when Sam grabs a ball-peen hammer, making his way into the den where Melanie Wells lay sleeping. Sam killed her first. He then went upstairs to find Deborah sleeping in her bed. He murders Deborah, then saves Emma for last. He went downstairs to her bedroom, bludgeoning her to death with the hammer. All 3 women were asleep during the attack, so none of them had, like, defensive wounds. The next day, well, actually the next 2 days, Sam would hang around the house with the 3 dead bodies there. Like, he's just hanging out with these 3 dead bodies.
We talked about in our coverage of the Dixie Mafia multi-part series we did, how brutal a ball-peen hammer is to be struck with.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and if you don't know, which I'm sure many of you do know because you're true crime fans, you have a hammer end that's meant for striking nails. The other end is round. It's like a ball. Hence the name ball-peen hammer. And it is just a brutal thing to strike. Heavy, solid, round object that's meant to burst through. I don't even know what the fuck a ball-peen hammer is really for as far as working with it. But I just know that this is why all the victims were killed in their sleep, because one strike from that is basically going to do it.
It's enough to crush your skull.
It's going to pierce your skull. It's going to cause significant, very serious brain trauma off the first stroke, and let alone multiple strokes. And what you led me to believe about the crime scene and the limited details, this was a fucking horror show.
Yeah, one of the officers said it was the absolute worst crime scene he's ever seen.
Yes. And so a ball-peen hammer, I guess the only reason I pointed out, it scares me to be attacked with a ball-peen hammer.
It's frightening. It's up there. It's like in the top
It's with knives.
couple of ways to die.
Hatchet, knife, ball-peen hammer, baseball bat.
Clown snakes.
Could you imagine someone striking you as hard as they fucking could when you're unawares with a baseball bat?
Crowbar, tire iron.
A fucking crowbar, a tire,
any kind of metal pipe.
old school tire iron.
Basically, any of the weapons that are used in the Clue board game
Yes.
are horrifying.
A fucking
right?
silver candlestick gives me, or lead candlestick gives
It's
me
a lead
pause.
pipe.
Well, a big heavy candlestick too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and rope.
When Mark Niederbrock, who had a house key, arrived to check on Melanie and his family, Richard attacked him with an 8-pound wood-splitting maul. So basically, Mark walks in his former home, right, that he shared with his wife and daughter all these years. He's ambushed. It's like a blitz attack.
And I'm pretty sure that's what we refer to in these parts as a pole axe, which basically has the big blunt end on the one end and then the axe head end on the other.
Is that what a wood-splitting maul is?
I'm gonna say
Does it kind of look a little bit like almost like an anvil or something?
Okay,
kinda?
well maybe this is a big wedge or something. Maybe I'm getting my terms fucked up. But this
You
is
do seem a little inebriated.
well, that's not true at all. But this is a very heavy piece of metal with a semi-sharp edge on it.
Well, no, I think you're right. It does kind of look like a hammer. I guess I was thinking, well, it does in a way almost have a look of an anvil, like on a stick, which
Well,
is how I was thinking of it in my head.
you
It's that
can-
same sort of shape.
You can strike a chunk of wood with it. If it don't go all the way through, you can take another big hammer or something and drive it.
Yeah,
through.
some people call it a go devil. I've heard it called that quite a bit. But yeah, it's sort of on one side like a sledgehammer and the other side is like an axe.
It's a
So
heavy
this is a very fucking horrific weapon.
that's likely very dull. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
It's heavy and it's fucking nasty.
Well, once he murdered Mark, Sam dragged his body along with Melanie Wells' body down to Emma's room in like the basement area. Then he tried to clean up the crime scene. Afterwards, Richard recorded a video of himself saying he knew he would be in trouble for what he had done and that he was considering suicide. Early Friday, Richard stole Mark's car keys and wallet, and that's when he gets stuck in a ditch.
Man, these assholes who do the senseless violence and then turn right around and get stuck. Like, I've only been stuck a time or two in my entire life. It always just tells me what dicks they are.
Well, it makes me think of the Clara Schwartz case. If you recall that story, also in Virginia, after they commit the murder, the car gets stuck in the mud.
And they leave it with the
Yeah.
tag on it and take the other vehicle and flee the scene.
Well, then they called a tow truck, and it ended up being a whole thing. Well, anyway, so when police discover this crime scene and they're piecing together what's going on, they put out a be on the lookout for Richard McCroskey. Police then were able to piece together a clue in the case. So earlier, as I mentioned, he was stuck in a ditch. It was on Friday, September the 18th, around 4 a.m., that a neighbor had called in a report that there was a car stuck in a ditch at the end of their driveway. So a deputy, along with a tow truck driver, show up at this neighbor's home. Sam is the driver. He's ticketed for driving without a license. Now, he tells the cop that the car he's driving belongs to his girlfriend's dad. And during their conversation, Sam told the officer, just casually, I'm planning to return home to California tomorrow, which is Saturday, September the 19th. The tow truck driver offers to give Sam a ride to a gas station nearby. So during the ride, the tow truck driver notes an awful stench attached to Sam. He would later tell the media that the young man stunk like the devil.
Oh my God.
He literally had to roll down a window with his head hanging out because it was such a strong odor that he said he kept gagging.
So basically, Sam has hung out in the residence for long enough because the authorities noticed an odor, so there's already an odor, that he's absorbed the smell of death.
Well, and hasn't taken a shower and is still wearing clothes.
Right.
From the crime.
Yeah, so he's just totally... That right there tells me that he's not mentally healthy.
I was going to say, it seems to me like that is proof maybe of some kind of mental break or something, that you would kind of lose it, you commit this crime, and then you're not showering or anything.
Yeah, I don't think...
that doesn't seem like someone who's got their wits about them.
No, I think he totally fucking lost it for whatever reason, and once he started, he couldn't stop. And maybe some others messed up, some disorder or something wrong with his brain. Just he leaned into it.
Well, from the gas station, detectives are now hot on the case. They figure out that Sam held a cab from the gas station, and that's how he would get himself to the airport in Richmond, Virginia on Friday, September the 18th. Sam spent the night at the airport. His flight was the next day, which was Saturday. So the deputy who'd given Sam a ticket at 4 a.m. informs detectives, because by now they've brought in the Virginia State Police. And he informs detectives that this young man, Sam, had mentioned a flight home to California during their conversation and that it was slated for this following Saturday. So it was on Saturday morning, quite early, that Sam was asleep in the baggage area claim of the Richmond International Airport. So once he's apprehended, the Virginia State Police, along with the Farmville Police, charge Richard with the murder of Mark Niederbrock, grand larceny for stealing his car, and robbery for taking money from his wallet.
And he still stinks.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
He does.
He's not seen a shower. He didn't go stay in a room somewhere. He, slept in the airport across the chairs or whatever.
No, he still stinks.
Stranded travelers do. Yeah, he still smells like death.
He stinks like the devil.
The devil.
When news traveled back to Richard's family that he had been arrested and charged with murder, they were in disbelief. Sam's sister Sarah couldn't believe it at all. On Monday, September 21st, the Alameda County Sheriff's Office executed a search warrant at the McCroskey's home. Electronics, including cell phones and laptops, were seized. Sarah, his sister, defended the horrorcore music scene, saying it was not to blame for the murders. She told reporters that Syko Sam was an alter ego and nothing more. That Sam's decision to kill 4 people wasn't because of his musical taste. And members of the horrorcore community, like Andre Schrimm, shared Sarah's shock. They were unable to fathom that a guy like Sam, who was so mild-mannered and meek, could possibly commit a quadruple homicide. People were blown away by this news. He was like the last person on earth anybody could imagine such violence from. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that must give you a little bit of pause to think about what you think you know about people, right? Because Sam could have been projecting this meek, whatever exterior to people, but truly having some very dark thoughts. It's one thing to be into horror or whatever, and just for or true crime even from an entertainment purpose. But if you truly sit around and obsess and think to yourself some really violent shit, like what would it be like if I cut this person's head off, and really thought about shit like that, that can be very scary. And
are you saying that's not normal?
No, it's not normal, Heather.
Uh-oh.
If you're having those thoughts, you need to reach out to someone, and not me. Don't kill me.
No, I wasn't thinking about cutting off your head.
Okay, because you don't want to deal with my huge fucking head.
Well, you have a really big head, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's not like I can just shove it in a bowling bag or something.
No, I'm pretty sure even the garbage man would be like, you need to process this differently. You can't just put it on top of the trash can.
If the human head weighs 8 pounds, your head weighs like 18 pounds.
No, I was going to say 12 and a half, but thanks.
Got a big fucking head.
Yeah, but no, seriously though, honestly, you don't really know who people are.
Well, you don't,
sometimes.
but I guess it's a real surprise because you would think siblings and they're fairly close in age and they've grown up together in the same house and they share a lot of the same interests. I mean, that his sister would know him.
Well, yeah.
So she was just like, this is not my brother.
Well, and that leads you more, it points kind of towards a mental break, like a true outside of his normal character, once in a lifetime situation, possibly.
Well, as Sam was cuffed and being taken away by police, a reporter at the airport asked, "Why'd you do it?" And Sam responded with, "Jesus made me do it."
Oh, man. Can we give him style points on that? Because everybody says the devil made me do it.
Not a good look, Syko Sam.
So he's like, Jesus made me do it?
Yeah, so who are you, like the new Ramirez?
Maybe.
An indictment was handed down on October 19th of 2009, charging Sam with 4 counts of first-degree murder, plus 2 more counts for murdering multiple people within 3 years, which made it a capital murder case. Evidence obtained during the investigation was overwhelming. Sam's court-appointed attorney urged him to take a plea deal in order to avoid trial, because this trial was definitely going to result in the death penalty. Like, there was just so much evidence. His attorney was like, I'm going to be honest, you don't stand a chance.
So if we go to trial, the jury's going to find you guilty.
Yo fucked.
If they offer you anything,
take it.
Besides death, take the plea.
Yep.
Okay.
So it was almost a year later that Sam accepted a plea agreement and was given 4 life sentences in prison. Now, many speculated that Richard's motive or Sam's motive in this killing was rejection. He had certain expectations of his relationship with Emma Niederbrock, and when she didn't respond in a way he'd imagined for this year of online courtship that they supposedly had, it sent him over the edge. Now, during the hearing, Richard, or Sam, he showed little emotion, but did sometimes have a smirk on his face. Many residents of Farmville didn't think Richard felt any kind of remorse for what he'd done.
Well, I mean, how could you? You take this young man, I'm not defending him, but I'm trying to figure out why he did this. It seems to be outside of his normal character, according to everyone that knows him. And you've had time to reflect on what you've done and thought about it and been in kind of a stable place. Jail sucks, but it is stable. And so, yeah, that makes me think that you're a fucking asshole. You're just a cold person, right?
Well, Syko Sam is housed at Wallens Ridge State Prison in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. And I guess at this point, he'd be like 31.
Man, fuck Sam.
Yeah, fuck Sam.
I'm going to call him Dick.
Don't forget, folks, we have Mountain Murders live show scheduled for September the 24th of 6:30 p.m. Sylva, North Carolina at the Lazy Hiker Brewing Company and Tap Room. We have a link on social media. Brownpapertickets.com is where we are selling our tickets ahead of the time. You might want to go ahead and grab a pair because they're selling pretty quick, Dylan.
Yes, it's a great little venue, and we cannot wait to partake in our next live show.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, if you enjoyed what you heard today and want to access more content, patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast is a great way to get ad-free episodes, more true crime cases, and an invite to join our Discord chat. We have a lot of fun there. And if folks want to reach out, Dylan, if you have a case suggestion or just want to give us some feedback, what is the email? How can they reach us?
Well, if you want to say anything, including fuck me, reach out to us at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
You can also give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
That's true.
So this has been, a lot of people call this the Virginia Farmville murders. Really wild story. Really sad. And honestly, pretty fucking scary.
It is. It's all those things at once. And when you were describing it to me, I've never heard this anywhere else beforehand. It's just all those things. You don't expect it. It happens. It's really scary because as parents, you might be taking these chances and probably contemplating these chances along the way, right?
Don't be afraid to say no.
Do we do this? Should we do this? And just keep, trudging along because you just want to connect with your daughter and support her.
Well, I say, sometimes we want to be the cool mom, not the regular mom, but sometimes it's okay to be the regular mom.
Well, sometimes it's okay to be the mom that sits up drinking and smoking cigarettes with a gun laying on the table beside you, watching this fucking piece of shit sleep, right? Sometimes it's okay to be that mom or dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I would have done in that situation.
Well, I don't know. I would be very angry if my child was a guest in someone's home and that's what they did to that.
Well, here's the thing. I can't sleep anywhere but my own home, so I wouldn't have been asleep anyway. And I'd be like, what's up, Sam? The first movie makes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, what's up, bud?
But technically, you'd be in your own home if you were that parent. Anyway, thanks for offering your wonderful commentary, Dylan. Without you, the show would be nothing.
Yeah, I can tell that's your attitude tonight. Everyone can tell what you think about me tonight. And that you're trying to give me shit.
Well, you're a little drunk and a little high before we're recording, and I don't like that.
I'm not drunk or high.
Whatever. Well, you're something.
I'm tired.
Sure. I'm going to post some photos. If you want to take a gander at old Syko Sam, I'm going to post some photos on Facebook and Instagram. You can go check those out. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we will be back on Wednesday. We are going to start our Offbeat series on missing in the parks, Dylan. We're going to talk about folks who go missing in national parks. We'll be talking a little bit about the missing 411 books and documentaries and all of the interesting theories, conspiracy theories about what happens to these folks who just poof, vanish. So it'll be a fun series. I'm excited about it, and we'll have that out for you on Wednesday.
I'm excited too, and especially about the end theories we have.
Thanks for tuning in.